Let's take it all the way back to Baby SD. What was the first song that you ever learned on guitar?
Huh. I think it was probably Santa Monica by Everclear.
Okay, right on.
I think that was like the first song. I was like, oh, because it's just so easy to play it badly, you know.
Sure.
And I
That's
did,
usually how it starts.
yeah, I will say from a young age, I specifically did not play Smoke on the Water,
Mm.
even though I could see how it was done. I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
Even from a young age, you knew to take a step back from that.
Yeah, it was right there for me to take, and I was like, nope, not going to do it. It's not going to happen.
Do you know what it was that inspired you to learn that song in particular? Were you just a fan of the band and you were like, oh, let me see if I...
I just put it together because it's just like open strings and one fret on one string. So I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Oh, right.
I just kind of put that one together. And then the first like actual song that like I learned, because I kind of like learned that one by accident. Like when you're kind of just messing around and it's like, oh, this sounds like something I've heard. I think that's why it was that one first. But
Yeah.
the first one that I like learned would be Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix. Because that was the reason,
Oh, wow.
yeah, that was the reason I picked up guitar. I was like, this is like really cool when I first heard him. And then, of course, it's like super hard. And I played it so badly. But it's not, it's not inaccessible to people just starting out. So Purple Haze by Hendrix is probably like the real answer, the first song that I learned. And of course, it was like such a bad version of it, just because it's the first thing I tried. But
Sure.
yeah, so that's kind of a two-part answer.
No, I know that. I mean, the second half of it is definitely one of the coolest first songs I've ever heard. And that's why you're as legendary as you are now, because you started out with a freaking Jimi Hendrix song.
You know,
That's it.
I've
That's it,
always
kids.
wondered, but now looking back on it, it's all coming together. Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is kind of like a therapy session. I'm helping you go back in time and figure out how you are the way you are.
Man, I really appreciate this.
Did you start playing in bands after that?
No, I think so. I started playing my junior year of high school, I guess. And I didn't really have any other friends that played. I would try to get my friends to like learn bass or something, and that never really worked out. So for the longest time, I only played music to use in school projects. like if we had like a speech or something, I would just like record a song about some nonsense, and I'd usually just get good grades on it just because it would just be different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I adopted that all throughout college. Even I remember my college thesis was just like making an album. It was such a dirty trick that I played because I was kind of working on these songs anyway, and my advisor, you have to meet with your advisor to do this like thesis, which takes people months and months of research and stuff. And I'm like, what if I just made an album because I think I want to be like a musician? And the guy's like, great idea. So I'm like, I already have it done. And he's like, A plus. And it's been
Amazing.
Haven't looked back since.
God, just each answer gets more and more legendary. It's wild. Absolutely. So you never really like? I know that you have your band Emerald Riders right now and everything, but so did you not like really play like really any high school or college bands or anything?
No,
in the solo thing.
Yeah, through college I was just kind of like a open mic guy. I just kind of did the singer songwriter thing. So I kind of play, shows, like very unofficial shows all throughout high school. But it wasn't until afterwards that I started playing, I guess, like gigs with other musicians and stuff. Actually, probably that all happened like within the last 7 years that I started playing like out.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was more just kind of like a singer-songwriter casual thing before that.
So in your journey, your musician journey, you started with the guitar, but you play a bit of piano now, you play bass now. What was it that kind of made you start picking up more stuff? Was it just like you loved guitar so much that you wanted to learn more music stuff, or how'd that go?
Honestly, I think I was just most attracted to music just because of like the storytelling aspect of it. So I was never like, oh, I want to be like a guitar player. And I think really as soon as I started understanding how music worked on a guitar, that was like the first step into trying to learn piano and drums poorly at the same time. So I've always kind of done that, but only since YouTube has taken off have I been like a guitar player. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where most of my focus has been. But I think that's the cool thing about it is like every instrument offers something a little bit different from a perspective that can kind of just increase your musicianship, and everything that you learn will help you with another instrument. So
Yeah, absolutely. All connected in the great circle of life.
that's why it's beautiful, man.
Well, speaking of YouTube, what was it that inspired you to start a YouTube channel and start putting up lessons for all us common folk?
Oh man, so I was teaching like in-person guitar lessons at the time, and I had an idea of this album I wanted to do, but I also wanted to animate it, right? Like a cartoon type deal. So
Sure.
I was teaching myself like keyframe animations, and this is at the same time that I had a bunch of students who were trying to like get music theory together. So I thought it would be cool if I could just like use some of this animation stuff to make like a like how to make chords from a major scale type video with like visuals and stuff. So I really just made that video to give to my students and also just to teach myself some stuff in Final Cut in Motion. And then I just put it on YouTube just because it was like the easiest way to share it with like whatever 20 students I had at the time.
Yeah.
And it was public, so it just people just kind of started watching it or whatever. So I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like other people are finding it. But honestly, I didn't really even use YouTube that much. This was probably, gosh, like 8 or 9 years ago, I think.
Wow.
And that video was just up for a couple years, and then I never posted anything on YouTube just because I didn't have any ambitions to do it. But then when I was actually making the cartoon, which is like a ridiculous undertaking to make a cartoon by yourself with no talent.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, I kind of want to get an audience for this. So I was like, maybe if I could get like 200 subscribers. That was my goal at the time. If I get 200 subscribers, then I'll have people that kind of want to watch this visual album that I was doing. And then it turned out that people were way more interested in like the lessons than the actual cartoon stuff. I was like, well, I guess I'll just keep kind of doing both of these. And then, yeah, they just kind of blew up from there.
And that's how the legend began.
Yeah, it was never a conscious decision. I was never like, I'm just going to do YouTube videos so people will find it. It's just I just had them, so I put them up, and somehow people found it.
People just kind of drawn to it. Wow,
yeah, Reddit was a big help. A lot of people were posting my videos on Reddit.
Oh, wow.
I was like GameStop before GameStop, Joey.
You were.
to the moon, man. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Here we go.
Man. So do you have, you've made tons and tons of videos. I didn't look up exactly how many you have, but there's a wild amount because you've been pretty good about posting once a week for who knows how many years at this point. Do you think that you might have a favorite video that you made, whether it's you like how it all came together in the end, or just making it was particularly fun for some reason?
Oh man, yeah. I got a lot of them that come to mind. I think a pretty slept on video is me and my buddy Ian. We're making a backing track that shamed you while you were playing it. So it's basically we have this backing track to practice the pentatonic scale or something. But then in the background, me and Ian are like insulting you, like while you do it, because we were trying to tap into that base human emotion that is motivated by shame, and I think we did that day. All right, loser. Let's see what you got.
I bet this guy's gonna try and impress us with something that's not impressive.
Off to a rough start. Oof, right off the bat.
Yeah.
Cool. So we kind of briefly touched on earlier about your band Emerald Riders. Tell me about that. How did that kind of come about? What was the concept kind of behind when you started it?
Well, it started off as a total joke, as most things in my life do. We were on a live stream, me and my buddy Ian again, we were on a live stream, and someone requested us to do like a Celtic music jam. And we're like, what even is Celtic music? For whatever reason, I kind of thought like, all right, Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack, is that like Celtic? Like something in D minor and 3/4. And then we just kind of played something like that for what we thought was Celtic music, and it was like the best jam we've ever done. People were like, "That's awesome," and I'm like, "Yeah, that was pretty awesome." So I'm like, "All right, well, why don't we make a whole album of Celtic music?" And then it just started kind of being really interesting to me, and it's really not Celtic music, but it kind of is. You know what I mean? It's alternative, whatever. And I don't know. Ended up getting a bunch of my friends to play on it. And then I became really good friends with my buddy Pasha, who's in the band now. Really, the band now is just me, Andrea, who you know because she tries to damage all the Journey instruments. This indestructible. It's good. And Pasha on violin. And I feel like we just kind of really developed a great musical chemistry together. And now it's kind of just like the band. So
Emerald Riders, all that stuff, you're producing all that stuff yourself. You're recording it in your own home. So how did you get kind of started in all the production stuff as well? Was it something that happened because of YouTube that you needed to do, or were you already learning how to record everything yourself?
As soon as I started learning guitar, I started wanting to record myself. You know, because again, for me, songwriting has always been like the main goal. So I was heavy into Pro Tools at first, you know, and then to the point that I actually kind of worked at a recording studio for a minute in Las Vegas just to kind of like learn how to do things. And the beautiful thing about YouTube is like you kind of get to use all those skills to do stuff and develop relationships with companies and stuff that I never would have dreamed I could have worked with. So I've always definitely been thinking about the production side of it along with the musical side of it. Like I remember I got started using like the Pro Tools manual with like my Tascam 122 or 2048 interface. And yeah, it's funny. I actually haven't learned a whole lot of recording stuff through YouTube. It's just been mostly like Sound on Sound magazine and honestly just like trial and error more than anything. You know?
Oh wow, that's really impressive.
So, yeah, now it's cool. I have some friends. Like I work with a company called Finishing Move Inc. that they do video game soundtracks. Like they've done like Borderlands 3, all like the Halo stuff, Crackdown, and it's great. Like kind of working with them because they are doing it at the highest levels. So if I have questions now, I can just ask my boys over there. And it's cool.
So you said that you don't necessarily consider yourself a guitarist, or you didn't until you started doing the YouTube stuff. Do you find that you kind of tend to enjoy playing more bass or more drums or more piano, but you kind of just do the guitar stuff because that's what people are kind of there for? Or do you is guitar kind of like your favorite instrument to play?
That's a good question. I think that guitar is still probably my favorite instrument to play, just because I feel like I'm the most versatile on it of all the instruments. I think that I'm most expressive on a piano, but I just don't really make piano video. I feel like making a piano video is a much more difficult endeavor over YouTube because it's just guitar is just so perfect. It's like the perfect visual instrument. You know, you can kind of see everything right there. There's only 6 strings. There's only so much you can do, but there's an infinite amount of things that you can do. So that's why I think it's like the perfect teaching instrument. But as far as my favorite instrument to play live, it would definitely be bass. Like that Journey Instruments bass that I have, I love that thing. And then that thing is just so good. Like the tone is just so deep and it's just like so playable. And just grooving to a bass live, I feel like you have almost the least amount of like responsibility on a bass. You can do so little and it goes so far. So I kind of like playing bass most live. It's almost easy and it's not easy because you think as a guitar player, it's like, all right, well, there's just less strings. I could do this. But to actually kind of think about bass's like role and then how you can kind of outline chords, I think is something that guitar players will find translates easy, but it's just a different perspective that you kind of have to come at it with. And it's just a ton of fun, man.
Are there any instruments right now that you are trying to learn or that you would like to learn?
It's a good question. I'm kind of slacking, to be honest. I'd like to up my piano skill for sure. I always kind of wanted to play like a stringed instrument, like a viola or something like that. But now I've got Pasha, and I'm like, dude, you just take it, because I cannot do what you do. So for sure.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, but I guess maybe piano, and specifically, I guess synth type stuff, and really kind of getting into that whole world. Because for the longest time, I always thought that synth stuff was kind of cheesy synth, but it's such a big part of like modern music production that I guess that's kind of something that I've been getting into a little bit more lately.
Do you ever have little pockets of time where you do nothing music related?
Yeah, oh for sure, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm a big basketball player. I play a lot of basketball, as much as I can in COVID times, you know. So it's kind of cool that we have access to a gym where we can kind of just do like a small like 2-on-2 thing. So
Nice.
yeah, basketball, watching stuff on TV, trying to stay in shape. That's basically my number one non-musical concern. Just because I feel that stuff is so good for your mental health too. Yeah, just staying active and just trying not to get bogged down, whether it is musically or doing something. You know, another thing, I've been getting into photography a little bit more too, because you end up with this gear, like making all these YouTube videos. And the nice thing about I shoot on Sony A7 stuff, and I'm like, you know, maybe I'll do photography. So I actually got like a different lens, and now I'm just trying to be one with nature to stay sane. I always kind of do things for the meme or the joke. And the first couple pictures of wildlife photography that I did were of squirrels. So I'm like, you know what? What if I was exclusively a squirrel photography person? So I only do squirrel photographs. That's it. That's my specialty.
I love it. I love it. You should just start an Instagram, Squirrels Are Us, and just, you can name them. Dude, it might get bigger than your YouTube channel, honestly.
Bro, life is about finding your lane, and I feel like the more niche you are, the better you have.
Yeah, these days, that's for sure. Absolutely. Sean Daniel, expert guitar player and squirrel photographer. You heard it here first, folks.
Hit me up for prints.
Check out my DeviantArt.
Yeah, right. Like Japanese style squirrels, like
anime squirrels. Oh man, that'll make it into the final cut. So give us some homework, Sean Daniel. You're a YouTube teacher. We need some homework.
Okay.
What is one album that we should all go listen to right now? We should fire up Spotify, Apple Music, or just the YouTube search bar and just listen to all the way through right now.
I'm going to say Suzanne Sunfor, The Silicone Veil. I think that is one of the greatest albums ever made from like a production standpoint. There's not a ton of guitar stuff. There's more synth stuff, but it's an album that like I never talked to with anybody about because not a lot of people have heard it, right? So
right.
I think that's just phenomenal stuff.
All right, cool. Well, Sean Daniel, thank you so much. I really appreciate meeting up with me this lovely Tuesday morning. I think it's Tuesday. Time is meaningless at this point. Look forward to seeing more of you in the future.
Oh man, I appreciate you having me.